Good afternoon and welcome to today's webinar, sponsored by FJA, The Future of Healthcare, an Unknown Reality. We are delighted you could join us here today. Our speaker is Joe Wilds, who is the Senior Vice President at FJA. He currently leads the expansion and development of the consulting practice, business development, and overall leadership. Prior to joining FJA, Joe was Managing Principal of Healthcare at Maddox Douglas, an agency of innovation focused on helping large brands bring new ideas to the market. Wilds was also CEO of Regence Life and Health in Portland, Oregon, and spent more than 20 years at Blue Cross Blue Shield, where he was Vice President of Marketing and held other executive-level positions. Before we get started, we encourage you to submit questions throughout the presentation using the question box on your screen. Joe will answer as many as possible at the end of today's webinar. If you encounter any technical difficulties during the webinar, please let us know, also using the question box or the chat box on the right side of the screen. Without further ado, we now turn to Joe Wilds.
Thank you, and welcome everybody to the Future of Healthcare webinar. Now, before I even get started, I want to level set as to why we're even having this conversation today. First of all, the U.S. healthcare system is ranked 37th in the world in terms of its quality of care, yet we lead. We're number one in terms of healthcare cost and spending. You hear all the time that our system is in a crisis mode. It's broken. But what I can tell you is that we have a very dysfunctional system that we work in. Now, I want you to visualize what I'm about to say. If the construction industry were like that of the healthcare industry, the carpenter, the electrician, the plumber, they would rarely communicate. And when they did, they'd be working off different blueprints. Now, I got to tell you, if you visualize that properly, that is not a house that you could actually, that is not a functional home, and it's not one that you could actually live in. But that, unfortunately, is what's happening in our healthcare system today. We also have a lot of changes in front of us, and I'm going to call many of these accelerators. Healthcare reform, the exchanges, these are accelerators to really changing the future of how we're going to compete. I'm going to talk about many of the accelerators that I believe are going to be pushing a lot of the change into the future of our healthcare system. But one of the bigger challenges I think that we have today, and it's rather fundamental, is that we have a real relevancy challenge of the products and services that we sell. Now, I do believe that it is somewhat different across the generations, whether you're a boomer, Generation X, or you're Generation Y. The boomers tend to be the most connected to the healthcare system, but I think we have the greatest relevancy challenge right now with Generation Y, who at the end of the day are struggling with whether or not this healthcare system is one that they want to play part of. Now, some of the causes to that dysfunction and the accelerators that I'm going to be talking about are, I don't believe we leverage what I think is the greatest asset that we have in the healthcare industry today, and that is our data. Okay, I want to take you to a conversation that I was part of at a conference here a couple of months ago. It was an executive from Target Corporation, and we were all talking with a group of health insurance executives. And this individual at Target said, "We know more about our customer after the second visit than you will ever know with a lifetime." And I thought about that. It's not the fact that the data is not available, because it is. The problem is that we do not leverage the data so that the customer can actually benefit from it. And I know that our systems are often an impediment to getting the information needed to build the products and services that we want. You see it on front-end systems. You also see it on back-end systems. I also realize that some of these causes are the fact that we're a very complex industry, probably the most complex industry that's out there. But I want to take a step back and say there's actually something even more fundamental than that, something that, in my opinion, is fairly tangible. We tend to paint all customers with the same brush, whether depending on what generation you're in, depending on what chronic condition you have. We tend to paint everyone with the same brush. And what that does is it really dilutes the value of your products and services to the individual based on their needs. It completely dilutes that value. Now, again, this is somewhat different by generation, but we are shoppers and we are true consumers here in the U.S. And I will tell you we have a fundamental challenge, and that is the healthcare industry was largely built in a business-to-business B2B model. It wasn't built there for B2C. Okay, our entire end-to-end business processes have been set up B2B. Now, you cannot take those B2B processes, cascade them over, flip on a switch, and think that you have a consumer retail experience. If anything, you're going to drive a very, very poor experience. Again, we've been very focused on B2B, business to business, and I think we need to acknowledge the fact that we've been very good at it in healthcare. We should be happy. But things are changing. And again, it's not easy for just to flip the switch and become have a consumer-driven model. Now, here in the U.S., the consumer is very much focused on quantity. Okay, we are the world leaders as consumers, largely because we consume the most. Now, the amount we purchase for the lowest cost is often the main point. Okay, that's why you see, buffets are so popular. Restaurants focusing on the size of the meal, the fast food chains, the size of that burger for the price that you get often becomes what differentiates them. We have our large box stores like Costco, where you can get 100 rolls of paper towels for a certain price. Now, I bring this up because if you think about it, consumers that reside in other countries, they have a different view on deciding what to make a purchase with. Restaurants are often focused on the quality of food for a fair price, regardless of portion size. There are very few large box stores exist. And really, the consumers are very educated on how the healthcare system is accessed and delivered. When I take a step back and I think about the U.S. healthcare consumer, it feels like a much more entitled model here than it is one that is more geared around, really understanding how things are offered and delivered. Very different in the two different approaches by country. And why was it such a big thing that Amazon surpassed Google in terms of searches for goods? Right? It hit the news. It was in everything you read online. Amazon passes Google in searches for goods. Well, first of all, I think we have to understand that Amazon was never designed to be a search engine. Okay? They are a company that does the best job that I have found at understanding you as a customer. Okay? They are the best at leveraging data to turning it into information so that it helps you make choices to help you become a better shopper. And let's just face it, with their model, you end up buying a lot more product. Their data modeling capability is nothing short of stellar. So what this is a great example. This is a great example of a company who has an extremely good core competency in knowing you as a customer that's actually spawning into other business opportunities for them. And I would say get ready, because here you're going to see Amazon, naturally go into other categories because they're so good at what they do. Forgive me for a minute there. It's not letting me go to the next slide. There we go. One of the things that we tend to purchase reviews based on our travel based on reviews and price. And I will tell you, one of the things that the airline industry has done an amazing job at doing is they have created this interface that allows you, regardless of what type of traveler you want to be, you can see the posting and reviews from other people who have traveled and traveled to where you want to go, but you can also purchase your travel and make it so easy for you to engage with them. It's very inviting, and they put you in control, and as being in control, you become a much better traveler, and they've just taken all the hassle away from you. And I think they're a great example of how an interface has turned into make you a much better consumer for them. Let's look at online banking. And depending on how you keep score and which study you look at, but I've seen anything from 60 to 90% of Americans today are currently engaging in online banking. What that tells me is that the U.S. consumer is already very savvy in dealing with online transactions and doing their research online. Now, the banking industry, once again, like the travel industry, has done an amazing job at making it easy to engage with them. Right? All your banking needs right then and there, and the comfort that you feel in dealing with those transactions, the banking takes all that, does it for you, and takes the hassle, again, just like the travel industry has done with the airlines. And now you have an experience that is very comforting and, again, very engaging. If you take a step back and you think about what that experience is currently right now in dealing with online things we do in healthcare, I don't think it's not nearly as engaging. It's not nearly as inviting And I don't think we do the best job at taking that hassle factor away from you. I bring up all these things about the consumer in terms of, quantity, looking at the airline industry, looking at the banking industry for a couple of reasons. First of all, the U.S. consumer right now is in the fast lane going 75 miles an hour and enjoying their experiences as a consumer, and they're getting this from other industries. And then when they have to deal with the healthcare industry, they have to lock up their brakes and become a very different consumer. And what this is really doing, it's driving a further wedge in their ability to truly engage with our environment. Now, as consumers, we like to comparison shop, okay? I'd like to ask you this question. What is the fundamental shopping experience we currently have in the healthcare system today? Now, again, I want you to visualize the example I'm about to provide you. If shopping were like healthcare, prices would not be posted and could vary widely within the same store, depending on who was paying. Okay, I want you to think about that shopping experience. And first of all, I don't think that's a shopping experience all that any one of us want to have. But that experience is often what the consumer goes through in dealing in the healthcare environment. And I will tell you that that experience will not make them feel good about their purchases. If anything, it leads to more miscommunication, lack of understanding, and again drives a further wedge in how they engage with the healthcare system. The best example that I can give you of a company that's even close to the area that we are, that's close to the healthcare business is Progressive, right? They sell insurance. Progressive does the best job at offering a shopping experience of any company in this space I have seen. Okay, comparing prices, even though they may not be the cheapest one, the bundling and the packaging based on your lifestyle, and the fact that, and this is what they do better than anyone else, their products actually drive change in behavior. Okay, that snapshot discount, when you put it in your car, has been proven to change your driving behavior, because you're very cognizant of the fact that you got this little device in your car, and you're also cognizant of the fact that better driving is going to give you somewhat of a discount here, right? A beautiful job as a company at connecting rewards to their packaging, to their pricing, to their overall shopping experience. I think the snapshot discount more than anything was created as a leading indicator of risk, meaning your risk as a driver and your willingness to put this in your car. But they're actually seeing great returns on their customers by actually getting behavioral changes in your driving. Progressive is a great model in this respect. Now, again, this is different by generation, but I will tell you that we tend to be less loyal to brands today. And today's customer doesn't hesitate to switch where they do business if they feel their expectations aren't being met. In fact, I'm going to draw you to a recent study that I saw by Thunderhead. They found that 61% of insurance customers polled would switch providers at the next year, right? They wanted to switch providers at the next opportunity. What this tells me is two things. One, we are becoming less loyal to those brands. And two, the switching costs are low enough to where they can do it. The consumer can actually do it. Now, healthcare in the past is, again, with their B2B model, depending on the size of the group, the switching costs could be fairly high. Not at the individual consumer level. At the consumer level, you will absolutely see the switching costs become very low. Couple that with very low on the brand scale, and we're seeing that the switching behavior really jump up here in the healthcare space. Now, what was once the most coveted relationship between the physician and the patient, we're starting to see behavior really change. Okay? Now, this was actually once reversed. Before, it was my doctor better be on the panel. I better have the largest access to doctors that I'm going to need. And the quality of care, these are my top predictors of my top predictors of my wanting to stay with my doctor, wanting to stay with my delivery system. And now you're seeing the fact that we've reached a tipping point in terms of price, right? Now, because price is an overbearing driver and we've reached that tipping point, it becomes what's going to cause somebody to leave one delivery system or the other. It's going to be what causes somebody to leave one health plan over another. I want to pick on ACOs for a minute, just for a second. Accountable care organizations, while I believe the premise is on, right? high quality of care, money saved by sticking to this particular regimen based on this particular condition actually saves the system money, and that money comes back into the delivery model. Well, I like that because there is money to be saved in the system, and I like the fact that it does begin to change behavior while quality goes up. I think that we have a flaw if we don't involve the consumer in the economic value. The consumer really wasn't involved in how ACLs came about, and I believe that in order for truly to get the engagement level and sustained engagement level that we need, you're going to have to involve the customer in the economic value overall. Now, I'm amazed at how much we trust social media in our society today. You know, this is how Generation Y, how they communicate, how they shop, how they make decisions, how they express themselves. But I ask the question, what is our social media strategy here in the healthcare space? I look at what other industries do with social media, and I will tell you that they leverage it. They leverage it in ways to sell more product. In fact, I've seen companies use social media to create such an infectious demand for their products and services. And again, I ask the question, what should our social media be for here in the healthcare space? You know, how can we leverage it like our other industries have been doing and continue to? It's too big. There's too much opportunity to address this space. But I'll be honest with you, I struggle to find examples of people in the healthcare space that are truly leveraging social media in a way that I see other industries doing today. Now, I know HSAs have been around a long time, and by no means am I saying that HSAs are the product that we've got to take that snapshot and let it carry us into the future. What I'm saying, there are aspects on how an HSA works that I think is very attractive that we need to move into the future in healthcare. So what I like about it is the fact it forces you to think about your healthcare prior to using. Right? We're in an industry, the healthcare industry, people just don't think about it until they have to use it. I like this model because it forces you to think about it, and it forces you to plan before a future healthcare event occurs, whether it's having a child or some type of surgery. It forces you to think about it differently. I think we need to harness this level of thinking because it drives a level of engagement that we don't typically see in healthcare, and apply that to future products, apply it to future services in our healthcare model. There's something there that HSAs began to touch that we need to really harness and see that carry forward. Now, I really do believe that we're at a point right now in our healthcare history. We're going to see a fundamental shift in the way healthcare is financed in this country. Okay, I'm going to take you to what Sears Corporation and Darden, those who own Red Lobster and Olive Garden, they no longer offer healthcare coverage to their employees. Okay? These are large companies. These aren't small companies sending their folks to the exchange. These are large companies who have provided very solid benefits in the past, no longer offering health care coverage, but offering a certain amount of money that will be put into your check each month. Okay. Now, first of all, this shift that we're talking about, this is really no different than you saw when 401k plans began to replace pensions. I just want to kind of bring that back. But here's what I think is going to happen. You're going to create a couple of different camps of people here. First of all, you're going to get the camp that says, I'm going to take the benefits, I'm going to take the money, I'm going to buy the same benefits I've always had. This is easy, right? No problem. It's a wash. Then you're going to have a camp of people that are either going to look at it to take that money and add more to it for a richer benefit package for them and their family. And you're also going to find those who are going to take that, buy a lesser benefit, and put a little bit of money in their pocket. But it's this third camp of people that I'm most concerned with. And I'm going to refer to them as the strategically uninsured. These are the people who are going to say, forget the healthcare system. It's not relevant to me. Again, going back to the relevancy challenge. And I just got a 20% raise. This is great. What this does, and I'm going to draw it back to what this means for payers and integrated delivery systems, it puts a tremendous amount of pressure on you because you're going to have to win people at the individual consumer retail play versus the B2B model that you've had before in the past. You're not going to win them over in the B2B world. You're going to have to win them at the individual consumer retail play. And I will tell you, it's going to put a lot of pressure on you because what I've seen out of most health plans is they're not ready for this shift. Now I want to talk about reference-based pricings for a minute. You're actually seeing this get a lot of traction across the country. I'm going to give you the pharmacy example because that seems to be where it's playing out the most. Here's where an insurer would actually choose the lowest cost drug in a therapeutic class. That's where their drugs are thought to have equivalent, substitutes for each other. And then it sets a reference price. Now, a consumer can actually choose to get the more expensive drug in that class, but they're going to have to pay the difference between the retail price of that drug and that reference price. Here's what I like about the model. It actually gets the consumer more and more involved in what stuff costs. It's very transparent, and it puts the choice in their hands. It forces a level of involvement, it forces a level of engagement, and it gets them really involved in making the choices that's best for them. If they feel that that drug is a better option, then by all means, they have that option. But they know right up front, this is what I'm going to have to pay. There's no more surprises. There's absolutely something, again, that's very popular right now in the pharmacy world, but there's absolutely something that we need to draw upon that we can use inside all aspects of healthcare. We need more transparency, and not just giving somebody a bunch of more information isn't transparency as far as I'm concerned. But I think there's something to be leveraged here, and in getting people more involved in their choices. And this example, this pharmacy example, I think can be cascaded all the way through all aspects of healthcare. I like that a fact that's gaining a lot of popularity because I think it has some real legs for our healthcare system. Now, the healthcare industry will see an increasingly significant intersection with retail. Okay, we're already seeing it with more and more hospitals and providers going towards a consumer-oriented type model. Walmart, right, with their retail healthcare clinics inside the Walmart stores is a great example of a retail giant going into the retail healthcare space. How many millions of customers does Walmart see in a given year? I'm going to talk a little bit more about Walmart in a little bit, but here, this retail giant jumping in the retail space, fundamentally changing the way these clinic models work is fascinating to me. ZoomCare, people who live out in the Pacific Northwest, I know you know who ZoomCare is. They're a very consumer-centric model, on-demand healthcare, very price transparent. You know exactly what a visit's going to cost. They'll take your HSA card, by the way. And I'm going to talk a little more about this, but they'll have this takeout model of home care that I think is fundamentally not only consumer focused, but I think is a tremendous opportunity for that in all aspects of healthcare. What's interesting to me is that using the terms retail and healthcare in the same sentence was virtually unheard of in the past. It's fascinating. But I'm going to take a step back. I'm going to say, what does retail mean in terms of payers and integrated delivery systems? What does a retail model look like? What are we going to need? Well, I think we have to acknowledge the fact that everything we do in this space is really built around product, okay? And I will tell you, payers must be highly efficient and fast to market in order to win in this retail space. Now, I know that other industries will say, well, that's a cost of entry. You have to do that, right? It's a cost to play. Yes, I agree with that. But we are as far from that as you can imagine. We have a huge deficit in our speed to market and our efficiency in the healthcare space today. I know that right now, on average, anywhere from 12-month to 18-month turnaround from a product's ideation to getting it in the market, that will not work in a retail model. Okay, that simply will not work. Now, data, which is probably the greatest asset, again, that a payer has today, needs to be used to build those products that meet the consumer needs and help them make the appropriate healthcare decisions. It's the Amazon model, right? And think about the Amazon model and knowing you as a customer and leveraging the data, and you think about where we're at right now in the healthcare space, we couldn't be farther from each other. Now, I look at what's needed to win in the retail space and healthcare, and I'm going to highly recommend that you take a look at FJA's Unified Product Platform, okay? First of all, you get an efficient manufacturing machine, where we're very inefficient currently today with our systems. You get a single source of truth. One of the things that gave me the greatest pain points when I was running a plan, and even today helping our customers at the plan level, is the inconsistency in data, the inaccuracy of the data. How many sources, the multiple sources that you had to go through in order just to get all this data, right? It's a single source of truth. And I will tell you, it's an area where I think we have a tremendous opportunity to help get that consistency of the data, get that accuracy of data. Making business decisions not knowing whether data is accurate or not is is absolutely crazy to me, and one that is just unnerving when you're actually having to make those business decisions. The other is speed to market. Our clients today who have our unified product platform enjoy a significant reduction in speed to market, and most importantly, a reduction in the cost that it takes to bring a product to market. There's a lot of manual processes that we have today in getting a product to market because of our inefficiencies. The speed to market is going to be huge, and the cost savings you get with it is a huge bonus. Now, I bring up this brand nullification just to, I want to make one point with you here, and that is we have been relying on our brand purpose and our brand equity to carry us into the future. And I will tell you that you can throw brand out the door, especially when it comes to Generation Y, because at the end of the day, they want the products and services that meet their needs, and if they can get it from somewhere else because they're not getting it met, they jump immediately. Brand, you can throw it out the door, and I bring this up because I know that it's still easy to try to rely on what our brand once provided to us, and it's not going to be that carries you into the future. Now, the lines between your health asset and your wealth asset management are blurred. And to many people, they're inextricably linked. And so here's what happens in other industries. You actually, with the products and services you get, you see the cost begin to come down. And you actually see the value for what you get begin to go up. That is what you see and what you've come to expect from other industries. Now, if you look at that value equation inside the healthcare space, it's completely out of whack. Our costs are always going up significantly above inflation or any other comparable metrics. Our costs are always go up, and the value for what you get always seems to be coming down. And so what's happening here is not only is the value equation out of whack, you're getting a very odd comparison between your value equation in the healthcare system and the value equation, which is very different from other industries. The real opportunity here in the healthcare space, and this is easy for me to say, very easy for me to say, but very difficult to do, we have to fundamentally change the way the value equation works. I want to go back to that retail example. There's a certain level of expectation when we start to get into that retail space that you have to be prepared to deal with. And I will tell you, you've got to begin to change the way the value equation works, or you'll continue to drive a further wedge and that engagement that we so desperately want inside the healthcare system. Now, I know that our landscape is changing. I get that. But I will tell you that I think our landscape is about to change at a much faster rate than any of us thought it was going to do. I talked to you a little bit about the tipping point in price. I talked to you a little bit about how care is going to be financed differently in this country. These are all accelerators to the change, but again, I think that it's going to be happening at a faster rate, and I don't see that pace currently right now with most plans. Now, consumers compare their experience in the healthcare world not with other healthcare plans. Okay, they don't compare healthcare to healthcare. They compare the experience that they get in healthcare with other industries, so that when they're on your site, they're comparing that experience with that of going onto Amazon, with that of going onto eBay. When they're interacting with you, they're comparing that interaction with that of the travel, the airline industries, with their banks. And so because you have to realize that, and you couple that with people just don't think about their health care until they have to use it. We're a very downstream business. Consumers want to buy products that meet their needs within their life cycle, right? They're getting this from other industries, and they expect it from healthcare. I'm going to give you a very interesting concept here. Most of the products that we have inside healthcare, I don't care whether it's medical, dental, vision, life, disability, accident, critical illness, these products are sold to you, not bought. There's a big difference. They're sold to you, not bought. I'm going to take a chapter out of a great friend and colleague's book, Maria Frantes Shepa. She wrote a book called Flirting with the Uninterested. And in there she talks about that the products that we have in healthcare are sold to you, not bought. Now, you think about it. When you buy a product, there's a level of engagement that's automatically there. There's a vested interest that you have. That interaction is completely different than when you are sold a product. big difference between the mindset that you have when you buy one versus one being sold to you. The challenge and my big wish for you, find a way to build product that people want to buy, that create that level of engagement versus products that are just sold to them. Again, easy for me to say, but one I think has tremendous opportunity to move away in this sold, not bought category that we currently live in today. Now, I want to talk about alternative service delivery models just for a minute. Now, whether it's group visit, it's home visit, the caregiving industry has already begun to tackle. There's a lot of business opportunity already created and more to be created around helping people age at home. Today, the consumers that are boomer plus, retirement age, they don't want to sell everything and move into an assisted living type program, which they've done in the past. Okay, they want to be able to live gracefully at home and get the care that they need and the caregiving that they need at home. I mean, you're seeing Zoom Care again with their takeout model. They'll come to your house and be able to handle 85% of all the problems that you would have without ever stepping foot in a doctor's office in a brick and mortar model or a hospital. To me, it's actually meeting the consumer and giving the care where they want it and when they want it. And to me, there's so much that we can do. I know a couple of integrated delivery systems that are already down this path as well. I'm saying that this is a great consumer model that we need to think about across the entire healthcare continuum. The other is the whole digital aspect, leveraging technology, whether it's email, Skype, text, avatar coaches. My daughter had a raging ear infection about 2 months ago, and I was able to Skype with her pediatrician, and within 6 minutes had a diagnosis and the prescription sent to the pharmacy. 6 minutes at a fraction of the cost. Again, I think there's so much that we need to do and leverage this technology, leverage these alternative service models in healthcare, because it really, well, first of all, studies are showing that people improve their health by accepting and utilizing this technology inside healthcare. It has benefits across the board, and I think, if anything, it shows our consumer that we're willing to meet them where they want to get care. I think there's a tremendous opportunity here. Now, again, there's the saying that the customers who you compete with today may not be, or the competitors you compete with today may not be who you compete with in the future. Never is that more true in Walmart and Costco and Walgreens. Walmart, again, with their retail clinic model, what delivery system thought they would be competing with Walmart for patients in the future? Who would have thought that, right? Think about Costco. Again, not only do they sell healthcare-type products in their stores, but they now offer and sell insurance products as part of their membership model, right? Who would have thought you would be competing for policies with Costco? And let's take Walgreens. Again, ramping up. So Walgreens, in an effort to ramp up for reform, they have this take care clinic service model that includes diagnosing and treating people for even chronic conditions like asthma, diabetes, cholesterol. Here's examples of people who we're going to be competing with in the future, who are retail giants, who are amazing at serving their customers and have a long track history of doing it that we never thought we'd be competing with in the past, who are now competing with us day to day. My question to you is, who's next? Who is that next competitor? Now, if I were a betting person, I would say look for somebody in the consumer packaged goods area, because they know the consumer very well. And I got to tell you, healthcare is a hot topic and hot industry for people to start jumping into. There seems to be a lot of money going around. Now, I bring up this example of, here's an example of kind of a little bit reversed from a retail giant jumping into the healthcare space. Here's an example of a classic Blue Cross Blue Shield plan. Florida Blue Cross Blue Shield was one of the first to create, I believe, a brick and mortar, on-site model to sell their products and services. And then they began to align with a delivery mechanism to create an on-site clinic. Again, a classic blue plan who now delivery systems are going to be competing with for patients. An example of, and there'll be more, I do believe that you're seeing more and more plans on the payer side really diversifying their portfolio, getting into a lot of other areas to diversify themselves from just the traditional core that they've enjoyed and they've played in. And I think you're going to see more and more jump into this type of opportunity. But here's just a great example of another classic blue plan you wouldn't have thought you'd been competing with for patients in the future. Now, again, I brought this up, that the largest challenge that we have in the healthcare industry is the relevancy of the products and services we sell. Now, relevancy is a leading indicator to engagement. And again, this challenge is more profound. This engagement and challenge that we have is more profound with Generation Y. But I want to take you to a phenomenon that's happening. Right now, we have boomers who are turning at a very, very fast pace. Literally every 8 seconds, they're becoming Medicare eligible. And what that means, if you keep this trajectory going for the next 18 years, we're going to have the number of Medicare people double from 40 million to 80 million, consuming a lot of healthcare expenditures and activity, right? And so if you think about it in terms of a teeter-totter of risk, boomers turning to the medical age of Medicare eligible is going to tilt the risk scale significantly. And you couple that with the fact that we have a real relevancy and engagement challenge, especially with Generation Y. We desperately need to find a way to get this next generation into the system to be able to create a level of balance of risk, or we're going to have this teeter-totter upside down, really wreaking havoc on our healthcare system. Now, again, I hate to sound like a broken record to you, but we don't think about healthcare and our healthcare needs until we have to go use it. So everything that happens beyond that trigger is somewhat of a crisis, right? Everything that happens is going to be a surprise because you're reactive. You're 100% reactive at this point. And it's so easy for me to say, you need to focus on education. You need to focus on more information, teaching tools. You got to get upstream. Okay? 80% of all of our activities in healthcare are downstream. But the challenge right now, and this again is fundamental and I think very tangible for you, the language that we use in healthcare, that insurance speak, does not resonate with most consumers today, especially Generation Y. So all the training material, all the educational, all your advertising could be falling on deaf ears because the language does not resonate with most of these generations. And I think that, again, if you think about the whole downstream thing, once there's been a trigger and you're already downstream in the healthcare system, it is too late to create the behavior and experience that you want. It's too late to change behavior. We're way too focused on the downstream. We have to put so much more emphasis in the upstream. But it starts with the language you use. Stop the insurance speak. It's falling on deaf ears. Now, it's amazing to me that when it comes to looking for a resource or looking up information or researching things, the first thing that we do is we want to go online. Oh, I got to go and Google that. I got to go look that up. Other industries, the goal that they've got is they use their website. First of all, the goal is to never to have you leave there, right? Because there's a lot of competition out there. There's a lot of different sites available. The goal is not to get you to leave their site. Okay, it's where other industries use their site to showcase what they do and actually sell you more product, right? Novel thought. Creating partnerships with you as a customer and getting you to be an advocate for what they do. I ask a simple question: does our online experience provide that to our customers? Do they not want to leave our site? Does it offer them an opportunity to showcase what we do and sell them more product? Does it do these things? Because again, the comparison's not with healthcare to healthcare; it's with other industries, and the expectation goes up every time they deal with people outside our industry, and then when they come back into our walls, it's unmet. Huge opportunity here to create advocates for what you do. Get them to not want to leave your site. It's an area that we must focus on in the healthcare space. Now, I get the fact that healthcare it's confusing, it's complicated. We have a lot going on. I get that. But I would say so is the financial world. I mean, the financial world's not simple, but yet they've done a great job at shielding you from all this that goes on behind the scenes. Take Fidelity as an example. Here's an example of a company who, through their technology and their platform, have created an environment for you that becomes a single repository for all your investment needs, regardless of their Fidelity type funds. They've also created an interface that allows you to engage and take complete control of your investment options and where you want to be in your future. That interactive model that they've got, leveraging their technology, has made it very easy for you as an investor, to where you probably had to go through multiple investment companies in the past. They've created that opportunity through their technology and platform that is absolutely amazing. And I will tell you that research shows that the quality of healthcare means taking an active role within your healthcare. Now, I want you to go back to what I said. We paint all customers with the same brush. Take a diabetic, right? I know that most of you have services and programs that you have for diabetics, right, to help diabetics become a better, to help them to prolong their life and to reduce the cost to them and to the system. Here's two people recently diagnosed with diabetes. Your model will treat both of these people exactly the same way. The first one takes control of their health care. They take your advice through diet, exercise, and the right dosage of insulin from their doctor. They're able to keep it under control. They themselves are living a better life. They're happy because you helped them do it. And the fact is the cost that they're going to be to the system down the road is much, much less than if they did nothing. Then let's take a person who was, again, just recently diagnosed, again, who you treated with the same brush, who says, hey, I forget your advice. I'm going to live and do the same things I've always done. I'm going to live the same, have all the same bad behavior as I've always got, because I think I have this thing called insulin that I can continue to use. And, what the heck, I'll still be able to live a decent life. First of all, they did not leverage the services that you provided, but yet you applied them to them. And the cost that they're going to have to the system down the road is much greater than the person who is taking control. Yet you paint them with the same brush. I ask you the question, where do you want to spend your activity time, on whom, what type of customer in the future? Because, again, treating all people with the same brush, I think, is a strategy that we need to really rethink inside this healthcare space. Now, in 2003, Bill Wasik used social media, text messages, and email, and he organized 100 people to gather around a very expensive rug at Macy's. This spawned the flash mob movement that you're seeing all over the country. In fact, you go onto YouTube and you type in flash mob, you're going to see hundreds of examples of people banding together to scratch some social itch. Okay. Now, I thought it's 100% grassroots driven, by the way. I think about this, people banding together to scratch some social itch, and I think, is there potentially a blueprint here for healthcare? Now, by no means am I advocating that you do anything malicious inside the healthcare environment. I'm not advocating at all, and by no means would I ever recommend that. But what I'm saying is that there is something here in these social movements that we need to think about and leverage. I can't think of a greater social itch that needs scratched right now than the healthcare environment and the crisis that we're in. The fact is that these people get together, they connect the dots with what they're doing to a greater good. That level of engagement is very infectious. Imagine thousands of people getting together to solve some social issue inside healthcare. I think it's powerful, and if anything, it's a way for them to understand and for it to become, with that understanding and connecting for what they're doing as to the greater good, it starts to build that relevancy of what we do. I think there's something here in leveraging this whole social movement. It's too big not to. I really do believe there's something there. Now, there's an ongoing debate right now between whether or not it's the carrot or the stick, which one is more effective. I will tell you that there is evidence that both of them are effective in within what they do. But what I will tell you is that rewards are having a significant impact on other industries. So let's look at the airline industry. I think they've done a great job at leveraging their mileage reward program to actually get a lot more repeat customers that they may not have gotten in the past. I mean, people definitely shop based on price and based on reviews and those things. But if anything's within the realm, the price differential is within the realm, the striking distance, they're finding that people are gravitating back to where they have a mileage reward program. Right? It's a natural tendency. I think that the credit card companies have done a great job with their point value system at getting people to always want to go back and use that credit card because they know that there's a reward system there. You have these big retail grocery chains, again, with their point system. that are using it to draw in more and more repeat customers into their stores. I like this model because, first of all, it's not a cash incentive base, which I think is not really a sustainable model. But what it does is it takes the economic value and it pumps it back into their system. It's great. It's value to you, and it's a value to them as a deliverer, as a retailer. We need to really think about how we leverage our rewards differently inside the healthcare space. I tell this to you for one reason, that in an exchange world that reform is going to create, it's largely going to make it more of a commodity where price may be the only lever that you have in the exchange to actually differentiate yourself. And what I can see right now, there's a lot of insurers putting a lot of emphasis into the wellness plans and these wellness programs that they're going to wrap around the medical product inside the exchange to differentiate themselves, assuming that price is going to be pretty close. And I think that's a big assumption, by the way. And so I think about the way wellness programs have worked, and I would say wellness programs haven't necessarily given us the greatest engagement lesson out there in terms of product. But I do believe that there's an opportunity to redefine how rewards work with wellness programs, how rewards work with these medical programs in the future to drive a much better engagement level and getting people, again, to think about their health care before they actually have to go use it. Great opportunity here with rewards. Now, I know that many of you right now are saying, this is all great what other industries are doing, but we're just too complicated. We're too highly regulated. We have too many barriers in place for us to do anything. Why bother? My statement to you is you need to bother. Because, first of all, there are other highly regulated industries like the auto insurance industry that sees its share of regulation, yet they do a great job, again, shielding the customer away from all the craziness. When it comes to barriers, these barriers and these walls were built to mitigate risk. Okay, let's call it what it is. They were built to mitigate risk. We built these barriers. Okay, if you go back to the wellspring of insurance and the wellspring of healthcare, passing the hat, the Lloyds of London, loggers getting together in Tacoma, Washington, in its purest form, it was the greatest sense of community we've ever seen in this country. Yet, those barriers weren't there then. We built them to mitigate risk. And if we built these barriers, my big wish and my big challenge to you is we can tear them down. Okay? You can't design a healthcare system in the future around the barriers. You can't go over them. You have to level them. I'm going to close with this. One of the challenges in our healthcare system, again, as we look at the relevancy issue, is what we do, we have to make relevant to our consumers, to our customers. It hasn't been relevant too much to them in the past. We must make relevant. We need to find creative ways to engage them, interactive games, highlight the impact of healthy choices real time, give testimonials, personalized experiences. I draw you to the Wii example. The Wii was created for the non-gamer, right? Regardless of skill level, everyone can enjoy playing games. And what I like it the most, it actually created an opportunity for families to get together. The Wii found a creative way to find people who typically did not want to play games ever. And it, in a creative way, offered them an environment, regardless of their skill level, to enjoy it. Creatively, it brought them over to a side of the house they typically would not have found relevant. There's tremendous opportunity for us to find creative ways to engage our customers in the healthcare space. I know it's there, and I draw you to a lot of these industries and compare them because they're doing things in ways that I think that we can learn from and apply them to the future of what we do in healthcare. I'm going to pause at this point and go ahead and turn it over to a few questions. Do we have any questions?
Joe, thank you so much for that excellent presentation. We will be now moving on to the Q&A segment of today's webinar. Joe, I'm going to have you end the file sharing so our attendees can submit questions. For any of the attendees that haven't submitted any questions as yet, once the file sharing comes down, you will see a chat box on the right side of your screen, and you can go ahead and submit any questions and direct them to all panelists. Our first question is, we still use paper enrollment applications and our systems are so bad, but we really do not know how many customers we have let alone any information about them. Where should we start?
Oh boy, great question. I would say that the fact is, let's take the paper enrollment because I'm sure that's a very manual process for you. You can get by with that for a minute. Let's just assume that we could actually find a way to continue, though it will be manual, be very costly. Let's put that aside for a minute. The fact is, if you don't know, if you can't get the information, you can't get the data so that you know your customer and begin to design products that meet their needs in the future, you won't have any people to paper enroll. So in terms of it, in terms of your 1-2 steps here, you need to be able to address, you need to be able to find ways to build your products and build them differently to meet the customer's demands in the future. And then I would secondly address the efficiencies in getting to more of an e-enrollment platform. But first things first, you've got to find a way you've got to get a system that allows you to not only house that information, but be able to sift through it so that you have information to build product, because that in essence is how you're going to compete in the future. You won't be competing off of your e-enrollment platform. That will be secondary. So I would highly recommend that you address that first one, getting the right platform in the door. That's going to be very critical for you. And I'm sorry that you don't even know how many customers you have. That is very fundamental. But I would say you're not alone in that challenge. I think that the data, as I pointed out in the presentation, data is one of the greatest challenges that we have. It's there. You have it all, I'm sure, housed somewhere. It's actually just getting access to it. And again, I would actually recommend that you take a look at our FJA's unified product platform for that exact challenge that you have. Good question.
Our next question is, my company has decided not to offer products in the exchange. Should I be concerned?
Well, that depends on who's keeping score, obviously. But I would say that in the short term, should you be concerned? B2B is not going away. Okay, I want to be very clear about that. We still have a very B2B world, but your world is going to get smaller. The amount of opportunities that you're going to have in your pipeline are going to get a lot smaller because companies are going to send their people to the exchange. People are going to change the way healthcare is financed in this country. So should you be concerned? Not if you have the best B2B model in the world. You shouldn't be concerned. But just know that your world is going to get a lot smaller, and it's going to get smaller very fast. But again, it depends on who's keeping score. I mean, when the Supreme Court, landed the decision 5-4, there were people who said, "Oh my gosh, look what's being done to us." Others were saying, "We're not going to play because we're not going to be ready." And then there were others who said, "Game on. We just now got access to a lot more customers for the future." So really, it depends on how you keep score. But I want to preface by saying B2B is not going away, and there's still going to be significant opportunity to win in a B2B world, but it's going to be smaller. Your opportunities are going to be much smaller.
Our next question is, great presentation on healthcare trends overall, but what about the future of ancillary business?
Sorry that I unfortunately, with the amount of time that we had, I didn't feel that I could really adjust the presentation in a way to even give it any justice to talk about where the ancillary business where I believe it's going in the future. I think that there will be an opportunity, by the way, in the future for us to do a webinar on really where this ancillary space is going. But let me address this just a little bit here. I think that in the exchange world that we have coming, there's going to be tremendous opportunity for people to begin to wrap what these ancillary products around the medical products as a way to differentiate themselves. Also, as the loss ratios and the financial playing field get leveled, it's also a way for you to put in high-margin products and sell high margin products as a cross sell to your population, where it may be the only place you actually make money in the future. I mean, I think that's going to be a real challenge. And I do believe that take ancillaries, the ancillary business one step further. I do believe that outside of medical, most of these products are going voluntary over time, where people are going to have the choice to buy them and won't necessarily be offered at the group level. But great question. I hear you, and I will tell you there's a tremendous opportunity to take these ancillary products and to wrap them around outside the exchange world to offer real differentiated value and again, start bringing some money into a pretty commoditized market.
Our next question is, what kinds of rewards programs do you see being successful in healthcare?
You know, I wish I could say that I've seen a lot that have been successful. Most of the rewards programs that I've been seeing haven't created a sustainable outcome, meaning that a lot of them try to use cash incentives as a way to entice people to motivate them. Others have used it as a way to almost make it punitive, to say, look, if you don't engage, you know, first of all, if you engage, you get a reward, and if you don't engage, you're going to be penalized for it. I've seen those semi-successful, but they're not sustainable. I would say that to answer that question across the board, I haven't seen a whole lot of reward systems successful in the healthcare space. I think people who've dabbled around in it, but it has only given them a short lift, and they haven't been able to sustain the lift with whatever they're doing. So with the reward program, you might see a Hawthorne effect, but we're not seeing the ability to sustain that level that other industries have seen. And so I think that fundamentally tells me there's an amazing opportunity for somebody to recreate how rewards work, but I haven't seen them work at any level of sustained value in the healthcare system.
And our next question is, in the scenario of two people just diagnosed with diabetes, insurers spend money on one who chose not to change his behavior. Your comments seem that you recommend spending money on one who changed his behavior. Did I understand right, and how would you do this?
Well, to me, it's like, okay, think about it, that you create a system for the, and the example you're talking about is the diabetic, right? So you put the same amount of activity and effort into both of those people, assuming those are the only two people that you had to choose from. One of these people is going to give you a much better return on what you're investing in, your activity time and your education materials and the services that you offer. The other one is simply going to ignore them. And so I looked at that as wasted activity time. How would you do it? I think what you do is you have to know those diabetic customers. You have to know that their intent, and you have to be able to monitor them as you're serving them, and know when to say, okay, you know what, at this point, I don't think that you're really going to engage with us, so we're going to stop the services that we provide today. Now, I don't know exactly what's possible inside some of these condition programs that we have, but to me what I'm recommending is that you look at your customers different. Don't paint them with that same brush, because you're going to get a much different return for your investment in them in that first person than you are the person who's just going to be very acquiescent to their care. Now, how would you do that? Again, I think it goes back to you're going to have to model and know who these people are almost in advance and during you servicing them. I think that's a great question, and I don't know exact on the how, but I will tell you, I think that if I'm going to place my efforts, I'm going to place them on the customer that's going to provide the best return to the system and with what we're doing in the future. Great question, by the way.
Great. Our next question is, what do you see in the area of how healthcare is sold, such as insurance and services?
Where do I see in terms of how healthcare is sold? Well, I mean, in the B2B model, we've really leveraged our distribution channel really well. And I think in the B2B world, I don't think that's going to go away. Whether it's the broker system, the consultants, I think that they're going to have to change their value proposition back into the payers and to their customers. But we have to think about how other retail companies, this is really where we have to go. We have to think about how other retail companies and how they've begun to sell to their particular customers, and take a lesson from that. Going, whether it's you go direct in a retail model, you've got to find a way to reach them where they're being reached at other industries. Insurance shouldn't be any different. Their delivery side of the house shouldn't be any different. We've got to provide those avenues for them to be able to get reached like they get in any other environment. And again, I don't see, some of the larger consulting houses, I don't see what they're doing going away. I do see it beginning to change, them beginning to change and offer more services in that space. But when you're talking about going to the consumer, you need to meet them where other folks in the retail world have done so.
And our next question is, how likely is it that the penalty will be enforced for not carrying insurance in 2014 under Obamacare? I heard it may not be enforced.
Again, I'm sorry, but my crystal ball is somewhat broken here. But I will tell you that let's talk about what the penalty is. And the penalty is what, $100? Let's talk about what an actual plan costs for you as an individual, anywhere from $150 to $350 per month. So you can do the simple math, and I think that even if the penalty is enforced, I don't think it's going to be enough to change behavior. If it is enforced, I think it's the same thing. $100 is not enough, in my opinion, to sway behavior in most consumers. The likelihood of it being enforced, I think, is truthfully, I don't think it's not likely this first year it will actually be enforced. I think we're going to see a lot of delays and actually being able to move forward with the Reform Act and the exchanges. I think many of them will be delayed. I think it will depend on the state, but the enforcement and the value of it, I think, will probably follow suit, be delayed, and probably won't happen within that first year. Again, my crystal ball is broke, but I don't think it really changes anything. If anything, I think it actually it's going to perpetuate the problem. I think people are going to look at that we've already reached the tipping point in price. They're already doing the math. The penalty's not nearly great enough to sway behavior.
And our next question is, do you see Medicare being rolled into health exchanges? And if so, what do you think the time frame will be?
Boy, that question is it's semi-loaded, actually, if you think about it. Truthfully, I don't see a whole lot in this next couple of years, a whole lot other than just trying to get and deal with all the holes that we're going to have in with what legislation we have right now with healthcare reform. Medicare is not only the fastest growing segment of people and opportunity in the healthcare space, but I don't think that it's going to happen in any of the next couple of cycles, because we're going to be so caught up in our own challenges. But if you think about it, and you think about what CMS does, it would be a natural transition. But I think going back to the root of your question, do I think it's going to happen? No, not within the next couple of cycles. We're too caught up right now in our own mess, and I don't see adding the complexity of Medicare, which Medicare is a pretty complex business. I just don't see it happening. But the glide path could be there if we so chose to get our act together.
Well, that was our last question. For any of the attendees that have any questions following the webinar, please feel free to send an email to webinar@corporateresearchgroup.com, and Richard or Joe will follow up with you. Thank you so much to the attendees for listening in today, and thank you so much, Joe, for presenting.